Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never expected that a simple evening at home would spiral into one of the most confusing moments of my life. My name is Ethan, and I've been married to Sophie for almost 6 years. We had the kind of marriage that outsiders would call comfortable. Not perfect, but safe. Routine dinners, quiet nights, small gestures of affection, and those occasional bursts of laughter that reminded me why I loved her. But that night, everything shifted. It started with a casual invitation from Sophie's best friend, Lily, to come over for a small get-together. I didn't think much of it. I had known Lily for a while. She was bubbly, charming, and had this way of lighting up any room she walked into. I had always liked her company strictly as a friend, or so I thought. Sophie had been busy with work, buried in spreadsheets and meetings, leaving me to entertain myself. I figured some company wouldn't hurt. When I arrived, Lily greeted me with a warm hug. Her scent, a mix of lavender and something sweet, lingered in the air, making my heart beat a little faster than usual. We sat together, chatting and laughing over trivial things. Memes, stories from work, her little jokes about Sophie being a boring accountant, sometimes. I laughed politely, more out of habit than amusement, when suddenly Lily leaned closer. Her hand brushed mine. Not intentionally, I hope, and she whispered softly, almost teasingly, "But you can play with me any time." Time froze. My mind raced. I froze too, unsure how to respond. Almost immediately, I sensed Sophie standing in the doorway. Her face was a mixture of surprise, confusion, and, strangely, a faint blush. "What did she say to you?" Sophie's voice was calm but sharp, cutting through the warmth of the room. I swallowed hard, trying to explain, but the words felt inadequate. Lily had retreated slightly, a mischievous smile lingering on her lips. The tension was palpable, an invisible line drawn in the middle of the room. Sophie's eyes bore into mine, searching for something. Proof, maybe, of betrayal, or perhaps just confirmation that her instincts weren't wrong. At that moment, I realized how quickly comfort could transform into suspicion, how innocent words could twist into doubt. My chest tightened, a mix of fear and guilt washing over me. I hadn't done anything wrong, but the way Sophie looked at me made it feel like I had. I wanted to laugh, to defuse the tension, but nothing felt right. Instead, I took a deep breath and tried to meet her gaze with honesty. "Sophie, she didn't mean anything by it. It was just a joke." Her lips pressed together, her eyes softening just a fraction, but the blush lingered. I could see her mind spinning, wondering, questioning, doubting. The room was silent, save for Lily's subtle humming as if nothing had happened. At that exact moment, I realized how fragile trust could be, how delicate the balance of a relationship is when outside influences step in. One careless word, one unintended gesture, and suddenly, the life you thought you had could feel precarious. If you're following this story, make sure to hit like so more people can see how delicate trust in relationships can be. I excused myself to the kitchen, needing space to think. The hum of the refrigerator was louder than I expected. My hands shook slightly, not with fear but with the weight of realization. I loved Sophie. I would never betray her. Yet that moment planted a seed of doubt. Not in her, but in myself. How could a simple comment from a friend unravel the sense of security I had built? I found Sophie standing near the counter, arms crossed, a delicate tension radiating off her frame. She didn't speak immediately. I waited, unsure if I should approach, apologize, or simply leave. Finally, she broke the silence. "I trust you, Ethan, but do you think she meant what she said?" I hesitated, struggling for the right words. Honesty felt insufficient. "Sophie, I didn't take it seriously. She's playful, that's all. I swear, nothing happened." Her eyes flickered toward Lily, who was now laughing with some mutual friends, oblivious to the storm she had stirred. Sophie's lips curled slightly, almost like a smile, almost like acknowledgement of her own insecurities. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if someone said something like this to your partner? Sophie's tone softened, though the underlying tension remained. I want to believe you. I really do. But sometimes words have a way of lingering longer than actions. I nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. Words could wound, words could tempt, and words could leave scars invisible to the eyes but heavy on the heart. The night stretched on. Conversations resumed. Laughter returned. Yet an invisible shadow lingered. I couldn't shake Lily's whispered words. They echoed in my mind, not with lust, not with longing, but with a strange awareness of how easily emotions could be manipulated without any direct intention. And then, quietly, I realized something important. My loyalty, my love, my commitment, those weren't defined by the momentary actions of others. They were defined by me, by my choices, by the way I navigated moments of doubt, temptation, and uncertainty. Type the word loyalty in the comments if you believe trust is more powerful than temptation. At that moment, I made a silent vow. No whispers, no jokes, no careless words from anyone would ever compromise what Sophie and I had built together. The following days were a strange mix of normalcy and tension. Sophie and I continued our routine. Dinners, casual conversations, shared laughter. But under the surface, I felt a subtle shift. That whisper from Lily had sparked something unspoken. A quiet war of emotions that neither of us acknowledged openly. One evening, Sophie suggested we go for a walk in the park near our apartment. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of blooming jasmine. It was our favorite place, usually full of laughter and quiet moments, but tonight it felt different. She held my hand, but there was a hesitation, a careful testing of boundaries. I've been thinking, Sophie started softly, about what happened the other night. I swallowed, heart racing slightly. Yeah. She looked at me, eyes glistening in the dim streetlights. I trust you, Ethan. But trust, it's complicated. Isn't it? Sometimes I feel unsure. I squeezed her hand gently. I get it, Sophie. I understand. But nothing happened. I promise you. Her lips quirked into a small smile, yet the faint trace of blush remained. We walked in silence for a while, the crunch of leaves beneath our feet filling the spaces between our thoughts. And then came the unexpected moment. As we reached a quiet bench by the lake, Lily appeared. She had come to join us, cheerful as ever. She waved, oblivious to the subtle storm she had left behind. Sophie's eyes narrowed slightly, a mix of irritation and curiosity. I felt the tension rise, my chest tightening again. Lily approached and sat nearby, casually nudging me with her shoulder. Hey, Ethan. Fancy seeing you here, she said, her voice playful. I smiled politely, trying to keep things neutral. Sophie, however, shifted closer to me, her hand finding mine instinctively, a silent claim of her presence. Lily leaned in slightly, lowering her voice, almost a whisper. You know, Sophie's lucky. You've got someone like me around to keep things interesting. Time slowed. I could feel Sophie's gaze burning into mine, a mix of shock and amusement dancing across her features. Her blush deepened, and I realized the power of words. How one innocent tease could stir a storm of emotions. I swallowed hard, careful with my reply. Lily, let's keep things friendly. Remember, Sophie's my priority. Her lips curved into a mischievous smile, but she backed off, letting the tension settle. Sophie exhaled, a subtle mix of relief and pride in her eyes. That night, as we returned home, the emotional weight of the encounter lingered, but in a different way. It wasn't resentment or suspicion anymore. It was a reminder. Relationships require constant care, awareness, and honest communication. If you feel this story highlights the importance of trust and communication, share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Over the next few days, I found myself reflecting more deeply on boundaries, loyalty, and emotional honesty. I realized that it wasn't just Lily's words that mattered. It was my reaction, my choices, my commitment to Sophie. Words alone couldn't threaten what had been built with years of trust and love. One afternoon, as Sophie and I were making tea together, I decided to break the lingering tension. "Sophie," I said gently, "do you remember how we met? How we laughed about the silliest things?" Her eyes softened, and she smiled. "Of course, Ethan. I remember everything." I laughed lightly. "We've had our share of awkward moments, haven't we?" She nodded, tilting her head. "And yet here we are, still together." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. In that simple acknowledgement, I found clarity. Relationships aren't just about avoiding threats. They're about nurturing trust, being mindful of words, and respecting the delicate balance of emotions that bind two people together. Comment below how you would handle a situation where a friend unintentionally creates tension in your relationship. Let's discuss the emotions and choices involved. Weeks passed, and the initial tension faded. Sophie and I grew stronger, more attentive to each other's needs, more open with our feelings. The incident with Lily became less of a threat and more of a lesson, a subtle reminder of the fragility and beauty of human emotions. One quiet evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset, I reflected on the journey. Love isn't static. It's tested by words, gestures, and the presence of others. But ultimately, it survives through trust, loyalty, and honest communication. I reached for Sophie's hand, intertwining our fingers. "Thank you for trusting me," I said softly. She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "And thank you for being patient." If this story resonated with you, like this video, comment your thoughts or a similar experience, and subscribe to follow more real-life stories that explore trust, love, and relationships. In the end, that whispered comment from Lily didn't break us. It reminded us that relationships are living, breathing entities, sensitive to words, actions, and intentions. And while the world may occasionally throw challenges our way, the bond between two people who genuinely care can weather almost anything. Sometimes the simplest moments, the shared smiles, quiet acknowledgments, and small acts of loyalty carry the loudest truths. And I learned that night that love, patience, and understanding could triumph over whispers, doubts, and fleeting temptations.